Hey everyone, my name is Leaf and welcome to my YouTube channel. And in today's video, I will be joining the internet's biggest art competition, Art Fight. If you don't know what Art Fight is, basically there are 3 teams and you join one of them. And by the end of July, whichever team has the most points wins. And to get points, all you have to do is draw the characters from the other team. And this year, I'm a part of Team Comedy. So with that short explanation out of the way, let's get drawing. Okay, for our first character, I will be drawing my friend Attic's character, Elijah. I've just really loved this character ever since she designed him a couple months ago. It's actually based on her Minecraft skin, and I just think that's really cute. So I wanted to draw him first. Also, when doing Art Fight, I usually draw my friends and family's characters first before I move on to drawing everyone else's characters. So I wanted to get a couple of their attacks out of the way. Attic has a couple characters put up on her profile, but Elijah just really stands out to me because I love his color palette and his design is just so unique. So I really wanted to give my best interpretation of his design. Okay, for the actual drawing, instead of going for my normal digital painting style, I decided to go for a more clean line art cell shaded look because I wanted this to look like one of those anime posters with the full body in front and a dramatic side view in the back. Attic is really into anime, so I thought she would appreciate this kind of poster. And also, I love using Art Fight to get out of my comfort zone and try new art techniques I'm not really used to. So for this one, that was the line art. People always say that cell shading and line art is easier and takes less time, and over the course of this drawing, I found that to be an actual lie. This drawing took forever because you guys know I'm a pretty messy artist. I get kind of impatient with my art sometimes and I just want to move on to the next step, and I save all the cleanup for my later painty stages. That's just how I like to rock and roll. Helps me get my drawings done. But because I had to do line art for this drawing, I had to do like 4 or 5 cleanup sketches because I'm just not used to having to be that precise so early on in my drawing. Another big challenge I faced was because I was trying to make this look like a real anime character, having to match up that side view and the front view to look like the same character was really hard. I don't draw side views nearly enough as I probably should. It's such an important angle in art, but I avoid it. I don't know when the last time I drew a side view was for an actual drawing. I'm just happy the side view ended up halfway decent. But after I finished the line art, I was able to start on the coloring, and the color palette for this guy is super simple. It's just a bunch of different shades of the same green and gold accent, and I love that combo. Green and gold is so underrated in my opinion. I don't think I have any characters with that color combo, but after drawing Elijah here, I might have to make one. I also just love how warm his skin tone is. It really accents the rest of his design so well. He just kind of looks like mint chocolate chip ice cream to me. I don't know guys, I think Attic might have cooked a little bit too hard with this design. I just love Elijah so much. On a completely unrelated note, I have been watching Demon Slayer a lot recently. I was hanging out with my friends and we started talking about it, and turns out one of them had never seen Demon Slayer before, so we all started watching it together. And I know some people out there are like fully against rewatching shows, but I've seen Demon Slayer about 5 times at this point, and watching it again after a little bit of a break, this show is so good. I could rewatch the show probably 10 times and I still wouldn't get bored. But I'm bringing that up because I feel like the style of Demon Slayer kind of snuck in a little bit into my drawing of Elijah here. Not fully, I was not trying to copy any anime style in particular. This was kind of just my rendition of if I decided to make an anime, this is what the style would look like. But since I've been consuming so much of that content lately, I feel like I can see some of it in my drawing, and I am not complaining. That style is gorgeous, and the more influence it has on mine, the better in my opinion. Alright, going back to the design here, I just want to point out my absolute favorite part of Elijah's design, and that is his little pointy golden shoes. I don't even know how to express my feelings towards these shoes. They are just so unique. I don't think I would have ever thought about giving a character shoes like this. Honestly, I'm kind of a coward when it comes to shoes. All my characters are fantasy characters, so usually they just get boots or the occasional armored boots, but this is really encouraging me to branch out and actually try and care about my character's shoes, because I mean, those shoes are like, they make the whole outfit, and I just never would have thought of giving a character shoes like this. So honestly, I might just have to buy myself a pair and buy Attic a pair too. We can match. I'm sure she would love that. But anyway, for the background, I just whipped up a very, very simple one. It's just some green gradients going on with these vertical lines because I thought they looked cool. And that was the finished drawing. Here is my final drawing for Elijah. I think it turned out awesome, and I need this poster on my wall right now. I think he looks like a convincing enough anime character, which was a goal, so I think I did a decent job on this one. Alrighty, next up we have my sister's characters, Selin and Hyesu. Selin and Hyesu are two of her Star Wars characters. Now, I'm not really into Star Wars myself. I don't know that much about it, but she's super into it, and I really loved these two characters' designs, so I wanted to draw them together. Hyesu is Selin's Padawan, and they just overall have a really cute relationship with each other, so I wanted to draw Selin holding a little baby Hyesu because I thought that would be super cute. I also want to apologize if I'm pronouncing Hyesu wrong. I'm pretty sure I'm saying it right, but I don't know. I could just go ask her, but I'm a little too lazy for that right now, so we're gonna go with Hyesu. Okay, like I said earlier, I really like to use Artfight to stretch my artistic boundaries, I guess, and practice things I wouldn't normally practice. And the challenge for this drawing is drawing a baby, because I don't really have any baby characters, and the youngest character I've drawn in the past year is Caspian in that trading card video, and I'm gonna be real honest, I do not like the way that drawing turned out, so I wanted a little bit of a redemption this time. I went through a lot of iterations on her face, but I finally ended up landing on one that I thought was both adorable and actually looked like a baby and not just a small man. I was definitely not trying to go for that medieval child vibe with this drawing, and to help me draw her face, I was actually using pictures of my baby cousin, because my baby cousin is the most adorable person ever, and she was a perfect little model for baby Hyesu. And just like the first drawing, this drawing took me a very long time just to get that basic sketch for. Like I said, I'm not really used to drawing children, but also drawing two characters interacting at all is always a lot harder than drawing them apart. So I had about 4 or 5 sketch layers for this drawing too. There's just so many arms and legs going every which way in this drawing, and it was really hard to keep track of which parts went where and how they all fit together. So the most time spent on this drawing happened in the sketching process, but luckily the coloring and shading for this drawing was pretty straightforward and didn't take me too much time. I find coloring complicated designs very relaxing, so I was super excited to draw all the patterns on Selin's tentacle things. I know they have an actual name in the Star Wars universe, but I cannot tell you what the scientific name for this girl's head tentacles are, but the patterns were super fun to draw on them. I kind of regret not doing some sort of back view for Selin, because she has this really cool like spade, club, and diamond pattern on the back of her head, and I think that's just so cool, but I went with a front view. Anyway, for the lighting situation in this drawing, I decided to have the characters mostly in shadow and have the light coming from the back because it gives this energy like they're walking into a building and the lighting is from the sun in the back. I just think it's a really cool lighting scenario, and it lets me play a lot more with ambient occlusion rather than harsh shadows. And if you don't know, ambient occlusion is as objects get closer together, they have a shadow because the light gets trapped and can't reach those areas. I don't know. It's a thing I add to a lot of my drawings, but in these darker drawings where the characters are mostly in shadow, it's cool to play around with that and try and make them look 3D even when you don't have those big shadow shapes to work with. It also helps highlight all the fabric wrinkles and stuff like that, which are some of my favorite things to draw. So I was having a really good time rendering this drawing. Once again, I chose a very simple background for this drawing. It's just a gradient in the back, nothing more. I have a couple like wispy shapes in the front, but I really wanted to focus on the characters in this drawing, not the background, so I give myself a pass. But here is the finished drawing. I think it turned out really cool. I love how these two came out, and honestly this drawing did not take me quite as long as I thought, which is always a plus. I think the first drawing actually ended up taking longer than this one did, which is crazy to me because this one, I don't know, this one looks a lot more detailed than my last drawing, but I still love it, and my sister really loved it too. So let's move on to the next drawing. Okay, our next drawing is not for anyone I know. This one is actually for some random person online, which is what this whole challenge is for. So we're doing it right this time. These characters are Meris and Artemis by this user on ArtFight. I was scrolling through my bookmark list for a long time to try and figure out which character I wanted to draw next, and as soon as I saw Meris in my bookmark list, I knew exactly who I was going to draw. But then I looked on his profile and I saw he had a little connection to another character called Artemis, and it turns out Artemis is a vampire pirate, and I just thought that was so cool, so I knew I had to draw these two together. Even though I knew I wanted to draw these two, I did not have a clear idea of what I was actually going to draw them doing. Some of the hardest things for me to figure out when drawing is actually what I'm going to draw. So when I'm in this situation, I always like to look at the descriptions of the characters to see if they have any lore. And I was reading through Meris's description, and it said the first time him and Artemis met was when Meris boarded his ship and saw that he was the only pirate aboard the ship, and Artemis tried to like attack him or something, but they turned out to be friendly. But since Artemis is a vampire, he can't exactly be in the sun for too long, so Meris gave Artemis his cloak and his hat to stop him from burning, and I just thought that was so cute. So that is the scenario I am drawing these two in. These two characters were so incredibly fun to draw. They both have really nice designs. They're not too complicated and they're not too simple, but they're just right up my alley. I especially love Meris's cloak and hat. He has an impeccable sense of fashion. These two things are so cool, and they were a lot of fun to draw. Especially drawing them on Artemis. I was trying to make the cloak look extremely oversized because it is already a gigantic cloak to begin with, but also Meris is like 5 inches taller than Artemis, so I just wanted it to be like really big and obnoxious. With the pose of these characters, it said that Meris was like really into Artemis, like he obsessed over Artemis, so I was trying to make him look very friendly, but I could not get a clear read on Artemis's personality. I couldn't tell if he was supposed to be more stoic or more friendly, and the description didn't really say anything about it, so I kind of just gave him this blank expression, like he doesn't know what to think about Meris, and I think that's pretty accurate to these characters, but if it's not, I apologize. Anyway, the challenge of this drawing is actually going to be the background, because as you've probably noticed, the last two drawings I ignored the background as much as possible, but we should not ignore our problems. So for this one, I wanted to do a background. At first, I was going to do a very simple background, like I was going to blur it out anyway, so I was going to do it pretty simple. But then I just kept going and adding more detail, and eventually I decided I was actually gonna try to fully render the background, including all of the dang rope in the back. I have to say my favorite part of this whole background is the wood trim around the ship. I think I did a pretty good job on this wood grain, and it looks really cartoony, and I just love that. I don't know. I struggle a lot when it comes to backgrounds because I don't know how much to stylize them to make them look like they fit with my characters. I think I need to explore that more in the future by drawing more backgrounds, but I think I got the right ratio down between like realism and cartoony. There's going to be a video in the future where it's just full background practice because I really need that. But for now, I'm very satisfied with how this background came out. Don't look at the ropes too closely though. I kind of gave up on them a little bit because it's like the most tedious thing I could ever choose to draw is like 80 ropes. So I had to move on. I was getting so bored with those. So I moved on to rendering the characters, which is a lot more fun for me. I just want to say I love the color palettes of these characters. They just go so well together. Meris has this very nice neutral color palette with this bright pop of teal because Meris is actually one of those characters that if he touches the water, he can turn into a mermaid. So I love how the original artist used this sea green as his accent color. And on the other hand, Artemis is a vampire, so he uses a lot of reds and pinks in his design, and I love the combination of teal and pink. That is just such an amazing color combination. They just work so well together, and these colors remind me a lot of Marina and Pearl from Splatoon, and I love those two girls. These guys just kind of remind me of them in a lot of ways actually, but like if you swapped their personalities. I had a very fun time trying to draw the lighting on this drawing. If you look closely, it makes absolutely no sense because the characters are kind of lit from the front top view, but there's also rim light on the ropes in the back, and later I add rim light to them as well, which doesn't make sense because there are not two suns in the sky, so there should not be two different directions of the sunlight. But one really cool thing about drawing is it doesn't have to make sense at all as long as it looks good. So we're just gonna all together ignore the realism of this piece and just look at how cool the lighting ends up looking in the end. Besides just enjoying the lighting of this drawing also had an incredible amount of flowy fabric for me to render. This is the main reason why I adore pirate design so much, is because pirate shirts are so fun to draw. Just the frills around the collar and the giant puffy sleeves. It's just everything I like to draw. I'm honestly incredibly surprised I just have one pirate design, and that is Peggy, who I designed very recently. I need more pirates. Guys, I think I'm going to design an entire pirate crew in the future. They could even be in the same world as either Peggy or my merman zombie guy, who still doesn't have a story for it, so that could be cool. Maybe I should do a video where I add characters to worlds I already have that I don't talk about a lot, like Alicia and Nyx's world or the merman and water spirit. That could be really fun. If I ever am out of ideas for videos to do, I think I might pick that one up. Guys, I haven't recorded a video in so long. I almost forgot that I need to put my secret message in this video. If you don't know, I hide little secret messages in all of my videos telling you to comment a specific emoji to make sure you're paying attention. And the emoji for this video is going to be a bat emoji for our little vampire guy. But with that over with, let's get back into the drawing. And after spending 80 years rendering Artemis, I finally moved on to fixing up Meris in the back. I wish I spent more time rendering Meris because I just love his design so much. I don't know if I've said this yet, but his hairstyle is so cute. He has this curly mullet situation on the top of his head with this braid in the front and these really cute pieces that stick out the sides. They kind of look like feathers. This hairstyle is just so creative, and I'm genuinely wondering how the artist came up with this hairstyle. I also love just how warm Meris's design is as a whole. It really helps the parts where there's teal stand out even more, like on his cloak and his hat. The only other parts of his design that are teal are his eyes and his gills, which you can't see in this drawing, unfortunately. I wish I found a way to squeeze them in because I think that is such a cool part of his character, but unfortunately I was not able to. But here's the finished drawing. I think it turned out way better than I thought it would at the start. I was kind of struggling, but that's the story of all these drawings, I guess. I also messed around with some color corrections at the end. I'm still not sure if I like it before the color corrections or after better, so let me know if you have an opinion down in the comments. But with that, everyone, thank you so much for watching this video. I had an absolutely wonderful time making it. I'm kind of bummed because I haven't been able to draw as much for Art Fight as I wanted to this year with everything that's going on in my life, but at least I've got these 3 attacks done and I'm proud of all of them, and I'm just happy everyone I've given these 2 attacks to have enjoyed them. I want to get to at least a couple revenges before Art Fight is over, but I'll just see if I have time. And one more thing before I go is I'm actually having surgery tomorrow, so I guess just wish me good luck on that one. It shouldn't affect my upload schedule at all. I think I'll still be able to get a video out next weekend, but if I'm not able to, you know why. But thank you guys so much for watching this video. I really appreciate it, and I will see you guys next time. Bye bye.